In this tutorial, we're going to continue on where we left off last time. In the last tutorial, we talked about how to define functions and created this print menu and process choice functions, but we left off without the ability to actually repeat and continue on once you've made a selection. So in order to do that, I want to come up here and edit in main. I would like to be able to repeat these three instructions over and over and over again until the user selects quit. So I'm going to remove that hello world, and I'm going to add one more choice to say if you choose 5, then I want to quit. Notice here in process choice, if you choose 5, then there's no work to do, so I can leave that one alone. And now what I'd like to do is print the menu and read in the user's choice and then process that choice until they select number 5. So in order to do that, I've got a couple of different choices. I could use a for loop, a do while loop, or a while loop. And in this case, I want to use my do loop because it's going to allow me to at least do this code once in here inside of this do loop until this Boolean expression is not true. So continue to do it while the choice, oops, let's use choice, is not equal to 5. So long as the choice is not equal to 5, keep repeating. And as soon as choice is equal to 5, then I'm going to stop doing this loop. So I'm blocking this chunk of code to say repeat this over and over again. And then after I leave my loop, I'll say thanks for using this system. Okay. Now you'll notice that we're getting an error here, and if we run this, it's going to complain that the name choice does not exist in the current context. And what it means is that it's not visible. And that's because notice I declare the choice here, and so it's only visible within the do while loop, not outside of it like we're doing here. So in order to fix that, I need to just use this choice variable and declare it outside of the function, or excuse me, outside of the do while loop. Now everything works out just fine. So I declare the variable choice and then go into my do while loop. I'll print the menu, read in the user's choice, and then process that choice. And then if the choice was not equal to 5, I'm going to come back up here to the top of this do and repeat those 3 instructions again and again and again until the user eventually gives me 5. So let's run this. And now we've got our menu that it's printing. And let's say I want to enter in my name. And notice now that it's going back and giving me the option of displaying the menu and typing in my choice again. So if I were to display my name, it's going to tell me my name is John. Great. If I try to say display my age, it says my age is 0 because that was the initialization of age. So let's enter in that age now, and we'll say that I'm 56. And then now I can display my age, and it's remembered because it's being used in these static global variables, age and name. Okay, I can type in -1 and it's just going to do nothing. But eventually if I type in some invalid number, it's not going to do anything because it wasn't a match there. But eventually I'll hit 5 to say I want to quit, and then it's going to say thanks for using the system, and then the program is done. So the way I can achieve repetition in this particular case is to use my do while loop, and I want to repeat these instructions until the user selects 5, meaning this Boolean expression is not true because 5 not equal to 5 is false, and then it's going to leave that loop structure. Okay, so there's an example of your do while loop. I can also use a for loop, and just as an example of how this is going to work, we have 3 parts to my for statement. I have the keyword for, and then inside of parentheses I'm going to have some setup and should I continue, and then do something before the loop repeats, and then I'm going to put the code in here that I want to have happen. So console write, let's just display this integer value I with a space after it, and let's create the variable I here. I'm going to set I to be equal to 0, and that's going to be my initialization portion of my for loop. I then create a semicolon, and the next piece of my for loop is a Boolean conditional expression that says should I keep going. So long as I is less than or equal to 10, I want to repeat, and then I use a semicolon to separate this third portion, or this last portion, and that is what's the work that should be done right before this for loop repeats again. So the flow of this is going to be, I'm going to do this initialization, I'm then going to look at this conditional expression and say, is this true? And if so, I'm going to use and do whatever the code is inside of the for loop, and when I'm done with that, I do this statement to say increment the I, and the next thing I do is come here and do that conditional expression to say should I continue or not. If this is still true, I go in and do my work, come up here, and then do the conditional, do the work, come here, do the conditional, and so on and so on and so on until this statement is false, in which case I drop down. So if we start I at 0 and we keep going so long as I is less than or equal to 10, incrementing I every time and printing I out, then I'm sure you can guess what's going to happen. Let's put a right line in here just to give us a new line before it prints out our menu. And if we run this, then you'll see we get the values 0 through 10 printed out. Okay. So there's nothing that says I can't do something different here. I could say I plus equal 2, and that's going to count by 2, incrementing I by 2 each time. So we'll start at 0, and then 2, and 4, and 6, and 8, and 10. And I could increment this to any value that I'd like. Let's say so long as I is less than or equal to 80. And if I run that, then I will get the even numbers from 0 to 80 printed out before I get to that print menu. Okay. Let's imagine that I wanted to continue to do this so long as I is greater than 80. Well, since I is initially 0, the I greater than 80, or 0 greater than 80, is going to be false, and we'll immediately drop out of this for loop, and we'll never actually do the code inside of it. So it is possible for a for loop to never get executed, and you can see that here, because notice I don't print out any numbers, because 0 was not greater than 80, so this is false, and I immediately leave. Okay, so that's some examples of how to use our for loop and also our do while loop to achieve repetition in our programs.